Hi everyone, my name is Chris Jimenez and today I'm going to talk about democracy. About what should actually be done to really change the situation. It could be the current situation, which honestly is already bad, or maybe one that can still be changed in a few years, which I'm pretty sure they will still be bad. Uh, Depends a lot on how this generation, and I'm talking Generation Z, which includes me, grows enough to have a voice that can make a difference. And what I mean is, uh, we can already make a change. A lot of us, it's already in their 20s and late-ish 20s. But Generation Z generally goes from about 1996 to 2012. Even though we can't even agree on that because some people say it's 2010, other people say it's 2007. I read for what I hear, but according to my math, the youngest Gen Z kid still goes in middle school. Anyway, the people running things right now are mostly boomers and Gen X. Though the later is still kind of a minority. This is strange because the boomers in their time, they took positions of power like really fast. And maybe it's because we're still early in the century, or maybe it's that life expectancy is higher. So there's an age shift in pretty much every file, included politics. For example, this is an example outside of politics. The Olympics. My mom is 57 years old, which she is a Gen X kid. She says that she has watching the Olympics basically her whole life. I never liked them, to be honest, but I watched the most recent ones together with her, and I noticed that a lot of the athletes were still born in the previous century, which makes the youngest among the previous century around 26 years old, when the average used to be like 20 to 25. Even the gymnastics perfect 10 Nadia Comaneci, she was 14 when she got her gold. That just shows how everything has aged up. People live longer. They don't want to retire. They feel like they still have some still useful years in their life, and that's pretty much what is going on in politics. We still have people in office and voting who are used to a version of the world that work for them. They don't see a reason to change because, well, why will they? It's fine for them. It worked for them when they were young. No need to change, at least not for a while while they're still here. And believe it or not, that's having a huge impact in democracy. I mean, we could talk about the current example, and how every time he decides to be back in office, we get the oldest president in history. But I don't want to go too deep into that. It's no matter for that. As a Mexican American who lived most of her life in Mexico, 10 years of my life, for to be exactly, I like to think I have a broader perspective on what democracy actually means. And also because my mom was pretty into politics when I was a kid, so and even though Mexico isn't the best example, I can honestly say I felt more heard over there, even though I voted for La Señora who didn't win, which is appearing right here. That's what made me realize democracy should have a face, especially a popular face. Going back to the socialism from my first project, which I believe I'm a stronger believer on it, the idea is that we are supposed to be the majority controlling the government, because at the end of the day, they decide for us. So how is it possible that every 4 years, or 8 if we're unlucky, just 270 people, maybe more because the number can change, get to decide the fate of 31.8 million people in all the US territories? If not, the fate of basically the entire world. See, I was in another politics class when the elections happened, and it was pretty much elections in the whole world, but no one saw them as much as the US ones, because the US presidency is the most watched and guarded office on the planet. They are basically a part in everything that matters to the whole planet. And I asked myself, like, I voted Democrats and I can show it. So what the hell did I waste my gas for? I filled out a paper that at the end of the day didn't even matter in the end. The problem is the Electoral College. It's such an old system that many countries stopped using it because it's outdated. It's like opening Netflix to pick a movie or pick a TV show, and the owner of the platform comes, knocks on your door and says, "You're not watching Squid Game, you're watching Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein." Like, excuse me? I'm the one paying the account. I don't even like Frankenstein. Why should I watch that? And this problem keeps going because some people think it's still useful. Let's take, I don't know, Wyoming as an example. Basically, no one lives there. Just the 3 people who hold those electoral votes. And if you remove the system, those 3 votes would just be that, 3 votes. Not 3 that decide the fate of 3 or something million of the other people living in the whole country. See, these kind of problems come from the people who just don't want to let go of the power. In Mexico, we have a say about politicians. no quieren soltar el hueso, which could be translated or they don't want to give lift the bone. They don't want to go of the bone because if they lose the little they have, what will they have? Now, why will I say that? Why does this actually matters? Well, it matters a lot. Not letting go of what they have means no one else gets to try something new that could work. Something new that could work in the long time. And can make a lot of good for the country. And actually will force politicians who truly want to be president to come up with a real plan of action, like to come up to us, which are the ones that are affected by their decisions. If they really want it, they should work for it. That's what I believe. Like, man, get out there, make all the promises you want, but at least make the effort so that if we see them trying, if we knew our vote actually count, I'm sure a lot of more people will register to vote. And other problems like gerrymandering will also fade away, because what's the point of redrawing districts if every vote counts equally? They're already like, no matter of that. Now you might ask yourself, okay, so what's your purpose? Like, my idea is actually pretty simple. Basically, it's scale system. During elections, more specifically, maybe like the 2028 elections, test it out. Start with one state, Wyoming, then two, Wyoming and Idaho. Let people see that their vote really made a difference, and then if that work, test it again in other two states, and then in the whole country for at least once. Make it national. Make politicians chamber whether they're Democrats or Republicans, so that people can see them actually working, and make them also realize that their voices were truly heard, like they actually made a difference in the future of the world. That their vote changed the next 4 years of the country they live on. I think it could work. Once people see that their vote matters, I feel like they'll engage more. Sure, it will take time. It will not be something like, let's tomorrow hold elections. Realistically, I'm thinking between 2 or 3 elections to test and see if it should stay. Because from what I understood in class lately, politicians act like they're in a world tour, visiting 3 cities and calling it a campaign. But the plan should be that they come to us, not the other way around. Look, I don't even like it, Charlie Kirk, and I feel like I did it pretty clear in class. But at least something that I could say about that guy was that he was everywhere to say whatever he had to say. Also, political minorities wouldn't be a talk anymore. Instead, they will be tied to be convinced because the votes matter. That will make us as people more united. Because lately, it's all just about attacking each other, and that's not democracy, that's anger. And honestly, I think the founding fathers will agree with this, especially Washington, because he was the one who said no kings. They were trying to make him a king of this new country, but he just decided to stay the terms he stood in. They wanted to crown him, but he came up with the idea of the president instead. If we told him today, hey, the system you left us doesn't work anymore, I'm pretty sure he'll say, well, it's not the same as I was when I was around. Change it, I don't mind. That was the whole point in the first place. We didn't want to live under monarchy, but for some reason, people think everything should stay the same just because it works. That's one of my biggest issues with society. For example, my grandma, may she rest in peace. I love her and I miss her every day. But she raised my mom and all my aunts and my 2 uncles for a world that doesn't exist anymore. A world where the TV was black and white, everything was really strict, and this kind of politics actually work. It still work, like they were dated. So what happened? For reasons I still don't understand, my mom turned out a bit more functional than my aunts. At least on the surface, because sometimes she is. But sometimes also my aunts, well, actually all the times, with all the little respect, if they see this, are very old school. They believe the only way to be successful in life is to work until the day you die. I don't think like that. Why is that relevant, you might ask? Well, my mom raised me by explaining everything, and as the world changed, I grew up understanding it with her. Today I've surpassed my mom in knowledge and some aspects of life, because even though she didn't know what the future will look like, she showed me the world as it evolved alongside me. That's why I don't really connect with my aunts, as I said. I prefer to love them from afar. But that's already another topic. All of this matters because it shows up in statistics, and it'll keep showing up over time. Millennials and Gen Z don't want to have kids anymore. They know the world isn't getting better, everything's getting more expensive, nothing is actually really changing, and that's why in many countries populations are shrinking and aging instead of growing. For example, in 2023, South Korea had only 0.7 children per woman. That's not just the government's fault. It's the result of a whole system where people in office refuse to let go of tradition. Let's take myself as an example. 100 years ago, being Mexican and a woman in this country, I would have lived through the Great Depression, racism. By this age, I'd probably already been married. How do I know that? My grandma was born in 1929 and got married at 22. She even told me once when from the last times I spoke to her, that she waited to a very long time to be married. This matters because a lot of the rhetoric you heard from people in office today is that we need to return to traditional values. And we all know why, because back then, rich men, white, were at the top of the pyramid. But the world keeps moving forward, and the pyramid keeps expanding, making it clear that not everyone is actually qualified to govern. And people like me are still being placed where traditional values say we belong, basically in the kitchen, basically where we cannot be heard. I notice it in the small things. In many of my classes during my 4 years of career, I have been the only Latina in there. In my entire degree, I only had 2 Latino professors. But back to the topic. Because all that is just a symptom of the electoral college. In simple words, it's outdated. And it often doesn't represent what people actually want. For example, 2016. The elections show that the electoral college doesn't care what each state decides. It cares about its own benefit. If it hadn't exist, I'm sure the economy wouldn't be as upside down as it is today. It might be, but not as bad as it is today. Even the cents coins are gone now because it's not economically valued to make them. Same with the 20 peso bill in Mexico. Producing them just costs too much. And I mention both examples because they show the same thing. When something no longer is sustainable, it has to be changed. And why it doesn't happen in politics? How did I notice? My supervisor in my internship sent me to buy tape. I went to Dollar Tree. The total was $14.58, and they didn't give me the 2 cents back. But people still want to hold on to a system that's clearly expiring. Instead of fixing it, they just attack each other. So, to recap, I think the real problem is generational. Life expectancy goes up, which in like that is not bad, but it makes other people don't see the point in retiring because they can have more time. And because they're so attached to their old ideas, which work in their time, they don't give the new ones a chance. They rather attack them before they even have the opportunity to prove themselves. Example, my presidential candidate in my last creative assignment. So, Handman Danny. The man's being threatened with death for having ideas that Republicans are calling dangerous. And communists and a lot of other things that are not good for us to say. Even though they can't even explain why they think that. And this stagnation of ideas cause other issues, like, again, gerrymandering and slow or non-existent population growth, because there's no point to have more people in a place that is not changing. The idea is that every vote should count. As we say in Mexico, voto por voto, casilla por casilla, vote per vote, voting post by voting post. And it should be introduced slowly to make it effective. Also, and this might sound harsh, it gives time for the older people in government to retire or pass. Or go to their creator, who, according to them, will welcome them for protecting the ideals they believe are the only ones worth defending. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. I hope you like this. My name is Cristina Jimenez. It's been a pleasure talking again about this topic, and I'll see you in the next time.